Hey folks, one of the more common problems you'll run into if you ever decide to own an old car is parts. Uh, this car, the Z, is nearly 50 years old. Some parts are still readily available. You can get water pumps, alternators, things like that. Some parts, not so much. Some parts are not available, and the only way you're going to get them is if you buy them used. Fortunately, in the internet world, there's this thing called eBay, and you can buy all kinds of stuff on eBay. But it's a little bit of the Wild West. You never know what you're going to get. My recommendation on that would be to talk to the sellers as much as you can, communicate with them, ask them questions like, is this the part in the picture, the actual part that you're going to get? Believe it or not, sometimes it's not the case. You really want to know what you're getting because it's important to get the right parts. Look at their history, look at their rating. And one thing, if you can, and some eBayers are very, very good about this, is they'll say, look, buy it, don't worry about it. If it doesn't work, send it back, as opposed to no returns allowed. So that's important. So if you have any kind of if you're going to spend a lot of money on anything, I would definitely make sure that you communicate all that up front so you know what's going on. If it's cheap and $5, okay, you're not going to bother sending it back anyway. Hope for the best. Keep your fingers crossed. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I've gone both ways. I bought parts that it was really my bad. I didn't look at it well enough to realize what I was getting, and I bought it anyway, and I just eat it. I'm not gonna try to send something back to them when they sold it to me in good faith, and it was my lack of attentiveness by looking at the picture, and they sent me what I got. So just be careful. But anyway, what we're going to do today is some of the parts for this engine, this EFI system, are simply, like I said, not available. So what I do there is I try to make sure I have parts that are spare parts just in case. Like for instance, I have extra computers, the ECU units. I have extra spark modules. I have extra voltage regulators you can get pretty easily. Now, in respect to the turbos, a few special parts like the distributor. You can still get these rebuilt occasionally, and I was able to get a spare distributor. That's great because it's a weird distributor. It has that crank angle sensor you probably saw me suffering with. But today's part, which I was a little bit nervous about because it's got 2 solenoids and vacuum diaphragms, all kind of stuff, and it's definitely not available anymore, is this. I'll show you. Get a better view of it here. I call this, I believe it's an idle air control. This part right here. Okay? And this is the one that I got with the car, and it works fine. I'm going to start up right now just to confirm that. And then I have this one I bought off of eBay right here. What I like about this, besides the fact that I have a spare part, it has a bracket. And that bracket might come in handy when it comes to installing this. I didn't have the bracket on this one, so I'm glad I got the bracket. If nothing else, I got the bracket. But we're going to try it and see. The seller says he'll take it back if it doesn't work. So we're going to start it, confirm that it works. Now I even show you what it does. Basically what it does is it takes a signal from the ECU and bleeds some air through the manifold to up the idle as required. One of these, move this down for a second. One of these controls the EGR system, I think, and one of them controls the idle air. I can't remember which one, but we'll start it, we'll unplug it, and I'll show you what you mean so you know that's exactly what it's doing. Let me get the muffler on it first. You want to be a good neighbor here. So I'm going to go ahead and plug the muffler in. Remember, this is, I've installed the starter and all that, the start switch and all that. This is in other words, I deconfigured it from the remote start that I did the other day to show that it works with the wiring harness built into the car. I don't know, it's such a pain. If it falls off, we'll know, right? Okay. So, let's start it up. I'll unplug one of those and we'll see what effect it has on the idle. affects the idle directly. I think it's this one. Maybe it's one. It doesn't really matter either one. We'll find out in a second. That's one. So let's plug in this. The one with the red must be the EGR. I think this one has no effect. Right. So what we're going to do now, so this one works clearly. So what we're going to do now is we'll take the eBay version and plug it in. Now it's got this bracket on it, so I wonder if I should I'll just remove the bracket. Stand by. I need to carry that heavy weight of that bracket everywhere. Yeah, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to make you watch that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start by transferring these vacuum lines. Okay. So this vacuum line here goes to this port. I've already loosened these vacuum lines in anticipation of doing this. I haven't tested it yet, so you're going to see it live, if you will. Center one, which is the main vacuum. Okay, 3, 4. Yeah, I don't like letting it hang, but it'll be all right. I got this ground wire here. Not sure why I'm connected this to this. To tell you the truth. But I'm going to do it exactly the same anyway. I'm not sure that even works that way, whatever. I'll come back and look that up later. So this is the red one. We'll do the red one first. Not red. Not red. I don't think you can mix these up because they're like, one's a 3-wire connector and one's a 2-wire connector. Yeah, it's different configuration here. Plug this in. Okay, we're all hooked back up, and just to be consistent, I'll go ahead and reattach this ground. I'll just use this. I don't really know if this means anything or not. Not sure what that ground wire goes to. If it is, then it seems like this bracket should be grounded, right? So it's not doing anything anyway currently. Fight me? Really? Gosh. Shit. Darn, save the matches. Stand by. Sorry, gang. Sorry for the delay. All right. Well, again, I don't know if it even matters or not. Just trying to figure out some way. I'm just going to have to hook that up. Live TV, folks. I'm only doing this because I want to make the test to be consistent. And since the other one was hooked up this way, I'll make sure this one's hooked up the same way. Wow. Okay. And we got to ground that. Anybody watch that Alabama USF game. Yeah, that's pretty telling on Alabama's part. I hope they get their quarterback act figured out. Okay. Okay, so we're all hooked up. So I'm gonna test it by unplugging this one after well, first of all, see if it starts and idles. Everything's hooked back up. Good. Right. So now we'll unplug this one right here. And if we lose the idle, we know everything's working like it's supposed to. Yep. Perfect. Anyway. Let's put this back in focus. Okay, so that was the goal today, was to confirm that idle air control circuit is working like it's supposed to. Somebody complained about not being able to hear me. Well, I don't have a microphone yet, so we'll just have to turn that volume up a little bit. I'll try to talk louder. So anyway, that's what's involved in, you buy a part on eBay. Hopefully you have a way to test it, a known good that you can compare it to. If it's good, then you just package it up and you put it in your private storeroom of parts. And you literally have to have a storeroom of parts. That's just one of the things about having old cars. So my recommendation is, if you're not committed to that level of buying spare parts, having a place to store them, learning how to do this work yourself, because you're not going to find, you know, a mechanic locally that'll do it most likely. I mean, you might find somebody, but they're not going to want to do it. There's no computer, there's no ODB or anything like that, or diagnostics to plug into. So you got to find some old guy like me who actually has worked with this stuff in the past, generally. And they're not going to want to do it. I wouldn't do this for money. It's not worth it. You'd never pay me enough to do this for other people. So basically the idea there is, if you're not mechanically inclined, not willing to learn how all this stuff works and do all this work on your own, I would recommend leave it for some other guy to do it. You don't need the aggravation in your life. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it again. If I wasn't real clear on that last video, what I was doing, I recognized after looking at it, it wasn't abundantly clear, but what I had done was I had hooked up, when I was starting the car and you were seeing the tach and all that, the engine that was running wasn't the car engine, that was completely disabled. That was this engine hooked up through a umbilical cord that allowed me to start it and control the engine from the wiring harness, the existing wiring harness on the car, without any modifications to that harness. All the modifications that took place was to this harness, because I certainly don't want to go taking a perfect Survivor car with electrical, everything works just like it's supposed to, and start hacking up a harness to make it adapt to this. So instead I went the opposite direction. I took this harness, made some minor hacks. Again, they were minimal though. They were still minimal, but there were a couple things I had to do. And made a couple hacks and added, that's the other part, added a connector that would interface with that. It did not exist with this system at all. It just does not have the same kind of plug-ins at all. It was something for a wiring harness for a 280ZX. It's a 280Z, completely different car, completely different wiring harness. So the idea was to adapt this harness so that it would plug and play into that car, not the other way around. That's why I was able to get that car back in its normally aspirated configuration so quickly. It was a simple matter of unplugging one plug, plug it back together, hook the starter back up, plug the coolant sensor and the pressure sensor back up, and we're back and running again. Anyway, I'm sorry if that wasn't clear in the first video. Like I said, when I went back and looked at it, I realized that, you know, I probably should have had the camera on the engine when I was starting, and it would have been a little obvious what was going on. But anyway, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a nice Sunday. Take care.